Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we're in Psalm 35. And in this psalm, and it's a rather lengthy psalm, David is going to ask God to plead his case for him, or in other words, to take care of his burden or his problem for him. And this psalm is going to be very devoted to the principle of God taking care of the issue. And it's going to have a lot to do with the fact that David has no power to take care of these things himself. It's not that David is lazy and doesn't want to take care of it, just wants God to do everything for him. But rather, these are matters that are outside of David's control and outside of David's ability to be able to make them go away or to be able to settle them on his own. So let's look at what David has to say in Psalm 35. Beginning in verse 1, we read these words: Plead my cause, O God, with those who strive with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of shield and buckler, and stand up for my help. Also draw out the spear, and stop those who pursue me. Say to my soul, I am your salvation. Let those be put to shame and brought to dishonor who seek after my life. Let those be turned back and brought to confusion who plot my hurt. Let them be like chaff before the wind, and let the angel of the Lord chase them. Let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of the Lord pursue them. For without cause they have hidden their net for me in a pit, which they have dug without cause for my life. Let destruction come upon them unexpectedly, and let his net that he has hidden catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall. And my soul shall be joyful in the Lord. It shall rejoice in his salvation. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like you, delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him? Yes, the poor and the needy from him who plunders him. Fierce witnesses rise up. They ask me things that I do not know. They reward me evil for good to the sorrow of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting, and my prayer would return to my own heart. I paced about as though he were my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily as one who mourns for his mother. But in my adversity they rejoiced and gathered together. Attackers gathered against me, and I did not know it. They tore at me and did not cease. With ungodly mockers at feasts they gnashed at me with their teeth. Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue me from their destructions, my precious life from the lions. I will give you thanks in the great assembly. I will praise you among many people. Let them not rejoice over me who are wrongfully my enemies, nor let them wink with the eye who hate me without a cause. For they do not speak peace, but they devise deceitful matters against the quiet ones in the land. They also opened their mouth wide against me and said, Aha, aha, our eyes have seen it. This you have seen, O Lord. Do not keep silence. O Lord, do not be far from me. Stir up yourself and awake to my vindication, to my cause, my God and my Lord. Vindicate me, O Lord my God, according to your righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. Let them not say in their hearts, Ah, so we would have it. Let them not say, We have swallowed him up. Let them be ashamed and brought to mutual confusion who rejoice at my hurt. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor who exalt themselves against me. Let them shout for joy and be glad who favor my righteous cause. And let them say continually, Let the Lord be magnified, who has pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. And my tongue shall speak of your righteousness and of your praise all the day long. Here in this psalm, David is going to lay out his desire for God's help and his desire for God to be the one that takes care of the issue. Now, as you examine Psalm 35, there's a lot that David has to say about his enemies and a lot that David has to say about how God can help him, even though he doesn't get into the specifics of how it should be done or what God is supposed to do about it. He just says, help, take care of this issue because I know you can. And so let's quickly look at a couple of things from Psalm 35. First of all, he says in verse 10, Lord, who is like you? He says, all my bones shall say this, or all of my being shall say, Lord, who is like you? And this is the response of David to God's care and taking care of him. When you go through and you read 1 Samuel, over and over again, you see God working to take care of David whenever anything comes along that is going to endanger him or trouble him or cost him his life. And even though David doesn't always deal with everything perfectly, David is by no means a perfect individual. David is one who has come to rely upon God as the one who is his provider and the one who is his salvation. And therefore he says, Lord, who is like you, delivering the poor from him who is too strong for him, yes, the poor who is needy from him who plunders him. God always takes care of his people. No matter what their situation, he delivers the poor from those who are too strong and those who are needy from those who plunder them. He also talks about in other places throughout here that he saves them from the traps that have been set and that he watches over him from the standpoint of keeping him out of danger. Lord, who is like you? It's a rhetorical question. There is nobody else like God. There is nobody else who is able to help like God, to protect like God, to save like God. And so therefore it is to him, David writes, that we should be turning. But then toward the end of the psalm, he also makes the statement down in verses 23 and 24. He says, stir up yourself and awake to my vindication, to my cause, my Lord and my God. Vindicate me, O Lord my God, according to your righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. David is going to call out for vindication, or for clearance, if you want to call it that, for his ability to be cleared of the charges that are against him. Now, one of the interesting things is a few verses earlier here in Psalm 35, David talks about the fact that when these individuals who are his enemies, when they are ones that are seeking his harm, when they fall into difficulties, he prays and he agonizes as if it were a member of his own family for them, seeking for their welfare. But when something happens to him, they instead are ones who are looking about with glee, waiting for his downfall. We will sometimes deal with those situations in our lives today. We can be ones who are prayerfully and sincerely concerned about the welfare of another person's family member or of another individual when they're sick or when they're hurt or things of that nature. But then when the shoe's on the other foot and we're the ones who are suffering, there is absolutely no concern at all for us. They are looking for an advantage to be able to overcome David. And David asks God for vindication. David asks God to take care of him and to prove that he is a child of God and that he is worthy of God's love and of God's protection. He says, let them not say in their hearts, ah, so we would have it. Don't give them the satisfaction of winning. Vindicate me. Help me to show that my faith in you is warranted, is justified, and will come to pass. When we do put our faith in God, our true faith in God, not just going about saying we believe in God and then expecting everything to go well. But when we truly put our faith in God, where we live as He wants us to live, we do what He asks us to do, and we seek Him the way He wants to be sought, we can have the confidence of David. Now, notice it doesn't mean that David doesn't have to deal with difficulties. He's dealing with them now. But we can have the confidence of David that God will be there for us, that God will help us, that God will provide for us. And just as with David, we may not always be able to get into the specifics of how it's going to happen or what's going to take place or even when it's going to happen. We can with confidence say that God will be there for us. These are the things that I've seen in Psalm 35. I hope that they've been beneficial to you. Next time, we'll come back and we'll begin looking at Psalm 36 and the things that are written there. I hope that you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.